Hello and welcome to another episode of my Facts and Glitches series, where I continue to showcase more of what I've learned about GTA 5 in my almost 13,000 hours of playing the game and from my awesome viewers. In GTA 5's Prologue, there's a small error that everyone missed. If you look closely at the counter in the very first room, you can see a City of Los Santos logo on the glass. This of course makes no sense because the Prologue heist happens nowhere near Los Santos. It takes place on the other side of the country at a Bobcat Security depot in North Yankton, Ludendorff. You of course remember the jewel store heist, but do you remember how Michael escapes from the heist? He isn't actually on one of these bikes. In the cutscene prior to the heist, Michael does actually explain how he plans to escape.
I'm leaving on foot.
It might surprise you, but he was actually serious. He really just walks away from the heist. He walks off to the left, down the stairs, around the corner, and then just waits on the curb. You might now ask how he ends up with Paige in a truck in the canals, and the answer is seemingly magic. He just disappears from his street corner at some point and teleports there. I guess this answers how Michael was so successful as a bank robber. The dude is a wizard. After pulling down Martin Madrazo's home on the mission Marriage Counseling, he sends henchmen after you. I've shown previously that you can avoid the spawn triggers of these enemies by taking this particular route to Michael's house. However, it was later discovered that you can simply press the button to look behind you and manually turn the camera back forward so you can still see, and this prevents the enemies from spawning regardless of where you drive, and this of course enables a much faster route back to Michael's. This was later improved upon when it was discovered that it's possible to avoid the need to spin your camera forward. In the keybind settings on PC, you can see that there's actually two buttons for looking behind you, one for on foot and one for in vehicles. By default, they're both bound to C, but it's surprisingly only the look behind you on foot that needs to be pressed for the effect that we want. You can therefore change your bindings so they're on different keys, and hold down just the look behind you on foot button, which of course does nothing in your car, so your camera doesn't change, yet the enemies still do not spawn. You can also do this on controller as well, but you need to aim as well as look behind you.
Thanks for the help out there today, kid. I had no idea it was gonna get that hot.
On the mission shop, Franklin and Lamar use a van to chase down D gets hit off his bike by a bus, and then Franklin gets out of the van to pursue him on foot. There is, however, a complicated way to shorten this chase. Using mods, we can see that the zone to activate the end cutscene is surprisingly large. It turns out that after we enter this cutscene trigger zone, we can actually still leave it and have the cutscene play if we go near D while on foot. Noticing this inspired speedrunners to create an alternate route where you can use powered brake boost to get in front of D. Once ahead of him, you can park your van in the zone, get out, and then run near him as he goes past to trigger the cutscene far earlier than we normally would.
Go get that fool!
Amusingly, D's bike continues along its scripted route, despite that D is no longer sitting on it as he is teleported away by the cutscene. Do note that if you want to try this yourself, the cutscene won't start early if the characters are speaking. This is fixed by making a taxi call and hanging up just before D arrives.
Get back in this motherfucking van! Man, take time, go get that fool!
At the end of the Firefighter approach to the Bureau raid, the crew flee the area in a fire truck while dressed as firemen. During the escape, the crew changes from their firefighter outfits back into their civilian clothing. What's funny is that they do this instantly, all at the same time, as if by magic. Rockstar clearly never wanted us to see this, because the characters will never change clothing if we're looking at them. The second you look away and look back, they will change. If, however, you focus on them for the entire drive, they will never have an opportunity to change, and so will remain in their firefighter outfits up until the end cutscene, which is when they magically get changed into their default outfits. Except for Franklin, he for some reason keeps his helmet.
Man, you boys sure know how to put the fun back in midlife crisis.
Some of the nets at the farms in Paleto Bay lack collision for projectiles. The surfboards at the beach have odd physics when hit with melee weapons. Delivery missions for Bobcat Security were added to GTA Online with the Money Fronts DLC. The vans they use during these missions are the same ones that can be seen during the Prologue in singleplayer. These vans of course differ from the ones that spawn during random events. As an aside, I wonder how much longer this company will be in business, considering that we get to keep the truck after we do each delivery. In the Oscar Guzman Flies Again GTA Online update, A red ATV was added to the Mackenzie Field hangar in Grapeseed. This ATV has the license plate TPI 1000, which is the same license plate that Trevor's ATV has in the mission Nervous Ron.
Come in! I'll come into your ear when I get a hold of you.
Speedrunners have broken taxis in GTA 5. Normally, the map has a maximum range you can place your cursor, and fast traveling to a waypoint on this border causes your taxi to spawn in the middle of the ocean. But it turns out you can actually go even further beyond. You just need to place a point of interest at the map's maximum and select it with the menu. Selecting it here forces the game to center the point of interest on your screen, which results in your gaining access to parts of the map normally not visible. This means you can create another point of interest and move it up to the new maximum map border, which is now in this area that is normally impossible to access. You can in fact do this as many times as you want, continuing to expand the map beyond what the game can understand. If you ask your cab to drive to a waypoint this far out, the cab will just drive around aimlessly, as it has no idea where you want to go. More importantly, if you fast travel to the waypoint, the screen fades to black like normal, but rather than teleporting to a new location, we teleport to the same place we started. While this initially appears uninteresting, you might have noticed that the in-game time has massively progressed, as if we traveled somewhere far away and then immediately came back. This glitch is currently the fastest method to progress time, and it is very useful for Michael's side mission where he needs to wear the Epsilon cult robes for 10 days.
Wear pale blue attire for the next 10 days.
Compared to repeatedly sleeping or dying to progress the 10 days, using this taxi glitch saves 4 whole minutes in the speedrun.
Where you headed, homie? That's the ride, my man.
Another interesting detail is that cabbing like this will always result in you ending up facing north. This is because it's the default direction set by the developers. There is a small detail that you may never have noticed in Trevor's famous Scooter Brothers switch.
We are Scooter Brothers! Scooter Brother!
His scooter has the same license plate as his Birdie truck, which is Betty 32. Why Trevor has this number plate at all is still a matter of speculation to this day. No one knows for sure. Sometimes when you arrive at a mission, there will already be other main characters there, and therefore the game locks your ability to switch to them. However, if you disrupt the mission, you can then switch to the character as normal, finding them at the mission location that you could see them at previously. This is true for every mission in the game, except for one mission, which is I Fought the Law. For unknown reasons, for this mission specifically, disrupting the mission and switching character will have that character be at a random switch location rather than at the mission itself, as should be the case. On Trevor's hunting minigame, you are required to send photos of the animals you've hunted to Cletus, but you can also send these pictures to Trevor's other contacts as well. There are a few generic reply messages that communicate disgust that most of Trevor's contacts will reply with, but there are also a few characters that have responses that are unique to them. Dave says, "That one I can't arrest you for." Franklin says, "Why are you sending me photos of dead animals?" Jimmy says, "Politically correct as ever, Uncle Trevor." Joe says, "See, I knew you wasn't one of those lefty animal rights activists." Joseph says, "Guns, meat, America." Joe and Joseph will actually still send these messages even after Trevor kills them in the mission Minuteman Blues, again confirming the existence of social media in GTA 5's afterlife. Josh says, "I'm picturing it with Lenny's face," Lenny being Josh's former business partner that betrayed him. Lamar says, "I only smoke homies with 2 legs." Lester says, "You really need to get a better handle on your media." Maud says, "Does that mean you're making me dinner?" Michael says, "Could you be any more of a redneck?" Nigel says, "Now if we could get a photo of you with the dead animal jock, Mrs. Thornhill would be so happy." Oscar says, "I know where there's some mules you can take out too." Ron says, "Why you never take me hunting, Trevor?" And finally, Wade says, "One for the wall." During the GTA Online mission, New Listings, Hard Deadlines, Raph makes a reference to the GTA 5 mission Marriage Counseling, where we pull down Martin Madrazo's house using a winch in the back of a truck.
You know, I'm learning the LS market's extremely turbulent. One minute you bagged a beautiful property, the next someone's pulling your deck down the canyon with his truck. That's why we gotta move fast on this.
These missions are sadly no longer in the game with the release of the Mansion's DLC. Franklin arrives to the Paleto heist in a bulldozer to help his crew escape, but few seem to understand why he does this, considering this wasn't the plan outlined by Lester at the beginning of the heist.
Hello, Franklin.
What's up? What about me?
You'll be waiting for them by the river, handling the getaway.
All right.
While not stated explicitly, it was originally the plan that Franklin would help the crew escape in a boat. When we drop off Franklin earlier in the mission, he slowly walks his way down to sit in this boat. Despite that this boat is never used for anything, if we destroy it, we get a mission fail saying the getaway vehicle was destroyed. The justification given for this boat not being used for the getaway is that apparently the police swarm the coast, which prevents the gang from going down to the water to flee.
There's cops in the bay. You ain't gonna be able to get out this way.
You hear that, guys?
I always felt like this was a lame excuse because heavy police resistance was expected from the get-go. On the mission reuniting the family, Michael and Jimmy interrupt Amanda and Fabian at a coffee shop, and they agree to meet later for a therapy session. If you follow Amanda when she leaves the shop, you will discover that she has a very aggressive driving style. She also just drives around aimlessly. She never drops off Fabian anywhere, so I'm not sure what happens to him when she actually goes to the therapy session. The mission I Fought the Law involves Franklin, Michael, and Trevor racing back to a garage. It turns out the AI of your opponents isn't great, because if you drive into Fort Zancudo and into this parking lot, your opponents will get stuck. They won't be able to figure out how to leave, so will bash over and over into a wall. The end result of this is that either the game registers them as stuck and you mission fail, or you drive away and the game warps them through reality to get them to catch up with you. A very small bug in the grand scheme of things. Did you know that Devin Weston keeps the cars we steal for him in the yard directly next to the garage we deliver them to? Perhaps you did, but did you know that there's an embarrassing spelling mistake on one of the tarps covering the cars? The cheetah in Grotti Cheetah is spelt C-H-E-E-T-A-H, not C-H-E-T-A. You may have never noticed these two related car brand billboards in Los Santos. One is from Ubermarkt and the other is from Obey. The Ubermarkt billboard mocks Obey by taking their billboard design and changing Obey into Disobey. These billboards parody the real-life feud that happened between Audi and BMW in the early 2010s. Both companies would cheekily insult each other on their billboards in the Los Angeles area. So that's the end of the episode. Thank you for watching. If you think you know of anything that would be of interest to this series, feel free to add it to my Discord. I hope you're all doing well.